What happens when a flight attendant, blinded by prejudice, decides to challenge a young black woman flying first class? She demands to know where she got the money. She tears up her boarding pass, accusing her of fraud in front of a packed gate. The flight attendant thought she had all the power, until the young woman's mother walked up. She was quiet, she was elegant, and she just so happened to be a justice of the United States Supreme Court. This isn't just a story of profiling, it's a story of what happens when petty power collides with real authority. And the karma, it's swift, it's brutal, and it's a lesson you won't forget. Dulles International Airport was a swirling chaos of choreographed stress. The massive windows of Terminal C did little to brighten the mood, as a grey, drizzly November sky pressed against the glass. At Gate C12, the 4:30 p.m. Global Crest Air Flight 215 to Los Angeles was in the full swing of its pre-boarding ritual. The scent of stale coffee and jet fuel hung in the air, a familiar perfume for the river of passengers flowing towards the gate. Imani Washington navigated the crowd with the practiced ease of a frequent flyer. At 24, she was already in her final year at Georgetown Law, and the dark circles under her eyes were a testament to a brutal week of midterms. She was exhausted, her brain still buzzing with case law and legal theory. All she wanted was to get into her seat, 1B, first class, and sleep for the entire 5-hour flight. The trip was sudden, a family matter requiring her presence back home in California. Her mother had booked the ticket just that morning, and Imani was grateful she wouldn't be folded into a coach seat. She clutched her passport and her phone, which displayed the first-class boarding pass. She'd tied her braids up in a high bun, and her Georgetown Law sweatshirt and leggings were the very definition of comfortable but anonymous travel attire. The automated announcement called for first-class passengers to board. Imani joined the short, privileged line, standing behind a man in a crisp suit, talking loudly about synergy. At the podium, scanning the passes, was a woman who looked like she was carved from a block of disapproval. Her blonde hair was pulled into a severe, shellacked bun. Her uniform was starched to the point of being a hazard, and her name tag, pinned just above a small metallic set of wings, read Karina Beckett. She was the lead flight attendant, and she wielded her small sphere of authority like a battle axe. The man in the suit passed through with a, "Have a good flight, sir." Imani stepped forward and held out her phone. Karina Beckett's eyes flicked from the phone screen up to Imani's face, then back down. A tiny, almost imperceptible frown line appeared between her brows. She did not scan the pass. "This is first-class boarding, honey," she said, her voice dripping with a saccharine condescension that set Imani's teeth on edge. Imani blinked, forcing a neutral expression. "I know. My pass is right here." She pushed the phone slightly closer. Karina held up a hand, stopping her. "I see it." She leaned in, squinting at the screen. "Washington, Imani. Seat 1B. Her eyes scanned Imani's comfortable attire, the sweatshirt, the leggings, the worn sneakers, and her expression tightened. "I'm going to need to see your boarding pass, a paper one, and your ID." Imani's stomach did a familiar, cold flip. This wasn't her first time. "My mobile pass is valid," she said, keeping her voice level. "But I have my ID." She pulled her driver's license from the back of her phone case and handed it over. Karina took it, holding it up to the light as if it were a suspected counterfeit bill. She typed something into a terminal, her acrylic nails clicking loudly on the keys. "Imani Washington," she muttered. She looked back at the screen, then at Imani. "This ticket was booked this morning. Full fare last minute. Very expensive." "Yes, it was a family emergency," Imani said, a thread of impatience entering her voice. The line behind her was growing. She could feel the stares. "A family emergency," Karina repeated, the word sounding like an accusation. She looked up, her gaze hardening into one of open, undisguised suspicion. "Ma'am, I'm not comfortable with this. This pass doesn't look right to me. I'm going to have to ask you to step aside." "Step aside? What's wrong with it?" Imani demanded, her voice rising slightly. "It's a valid ticket. You have my ID. It matches. It's my job to ensure the security of this flight, and frankly, I have doubts about the authenticity of this ticket. It's highly unusual." Karina's voice was louder now, intentionally drawing attention. "These kinds of tickets are often flagged for fraudulent activity. Where did you get this ticket?" Imani was stunned into a half-second of silence. The blatant, ugly implication hung in the air. "My mother bought it," she said, her voice turning icy. Karina let out a short, sharp laugh that was more of a scoff. "Right. Your mother." She motioned to the side of the podium. "Please wait over there. We're going to have to verify this with ticketing, and you'll need to wait until we've finished boarding the other passengers." "You're making me wait? You're going to give away my seat?" "If your ticket isn't valid, it's not your seat to give away, is it?" Karina said, with a thin, triumphant smile. She then turned to the next person in line, a white man in a golf shirt, and beamed. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome aboard Global Crest. Let me just scan that for you." Humiliation washed over Imani, hot and prickly. She was being treated like a criminal in front of an entire gate of passengers. She stepped aside, her hands shaking, and pulled out her phone. She didn't call ticketing. She sent a text message. "Mum, they are refusing to let me on the plane at Dulles. The flight attendant, a Karina Beckett, just accused me of having a fraudulent ticket. She's making me wait." A reply came back almost instantly. "I'm 2 minutes away. Do not move. Do not say another word to her. I am handling it." Imani looked up. Karina Beckett was glancing over at her, a smirk playing on her lips as she cheerfully greeted the first-class passengers who were streaming past. Imani took a deep breath, held her ground, and waited. The storm was coming. The main boarding groups were now being called. Group 1, then Group 2. The area around Gate C12 was a sea of rolling suitcases and anxious passengers. Imani stood in her designated spot of shame, next to a trash receptacle, feeling like she was on display. People stared as they walked by. They'd heard the confrontation, and now they were looking at her, this young black woman in a sweatshirt, and then at the first-class boarding lane. And they were drawing their own conclusions. The whispers were audible. "Fraudulent," she said. "Tried to use a fake pass. So much of this lately." Imani's face burned. Every minute that ticked by felt like an hour. She was a scholar at one of the most prestigious law schools in the country, yet here she was, being publicly branded a thief by a woman in a polyester suit. Karina Beckett seemed to be reveling in the moment. She'd occasionally look over at Imani and shake her head, as if confirming to the other passengers that she had successfully averted a major crisis. She'd even called over another gate agent, a younger man named Mitchell, and was whispering to him, gesturing at Imani. Mitchell looked deeply uncomfortable. "Karina, her ID matches the manifest," Mitchell said, his voice low. "The ticket is paid for. It's cleared. We should let her board." Karina waved him off dismissively, her authority absolute. "It's a red flag, Mitchell. I've been doing this for 20 years. You learn to spot the ones that don't belong. She doesn't belong." Her voice was low, but in a lull between boarding calls, it carried. "She doesn't belong." The words hit Imani like a slap. This was no longer about a ticket. This was about her face, her clothes, her skin. This was about her daring to exist in a space Karina felt she owned. Imani's phone buzzed. "I am at the gate." "Where are you?" Imani looked up, scanning the crowd, and then she saw her. Walking briskly against the flow of passengers was a woman who commanded attention without demanding it. She was tall, poised, and dressed in an impeccably tailored navy blue pantsuit and simple, elegant pearls. Her hair was perfectly coiffed, and her face, which was a mirror of Imani's own, was set in a calm, neutral expression that Imani knew from experience masked a calculating, brilliant mind. This was Justice Aris Thorne. She was not just a judge. She was one of the 9, a justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. She was scheduled to fly to a legal conference in San Francisco, but had rerouted to LAX with Imani when the family emergency arose. She had simply been parking the car while Imani went ahead. Imani's relief was so profound, it almost made her knees buckle. "Mom," she said, just loud enough to be heard. Aris Thorne's eyes found her daughter, taking in her tense posture and the humiliated flush on her cheeks. The calm in Aris's eyes flickered, replaced by a cold, sharp fire. She strode directly to the podium, bypassing the remaining line completely. Karina Beckett, seeing the woman cut the line, immediately went on the offensive. "Mom, you'll have to wait in line with the others," she snapped, not even looking up from her screen. "We are boarding Group 3. "I am not here to board," Aris said. Her voice was not loud, but it was deep, resonant, and cut through the gate area chatter like a scalpel. "I am here to find out why you are illegally detaining my daughter." Karina's head snapped up, her face twisting in annoyance. "Mom, this is a private security matter." "Who are you?" "I am Aris Thorne," she said simply, holding Karina's gaze. "And that," she pointed to Imani, "is my daughter, Imani Washington. I purchased her ticket in seat 1B on my credit card. You have her valid government-issued ID. You have her valid boarding pass. Now, I will ask you one time, what is the problem?" There was a moment of silence. Karina looked from Aris's powerful, intelligent face to Imani's, and back again. The resemblance was undeniable. The suit, the pearls, the air of absolute authority. This was not the mother Karina had imagined. But Karina Beckett was not one to back down easily. She had built her small kingdom on challenging people, and she was too deep to retreat. "This is my gate, Mum," Karina said, her voice shaking slightly but still defiant. "And I have determined that there is a high probability of fraudulent activity. I don't care who you are. I have a right to deny boarding to anyone I deem a security risk." "A security risk?" Aris repeated. The temperature in the immediate vicinity seemed to drop 10 degrees. "My daughter, a Georgetown law student, is a security risk." She was defensive, and this last-minute ticket is suspicious. Karina was grasping at straws, her face turning a blotchy red. "How do I know you are who you say you are? How do I know you're not both in on it?" It was a catastrophic miscalculation. The gate agent Mitchell, who had been watching with wide, terrified eyes, suddenly whispered, "Karina, stop! Do you know who that is?" Imani, who had been instructed not to speak, finally broke her silence. "Ms. Beckett," she said, her voice shaking with adrenaline. "My mother is Justice Aris Thorne, of the United States Supreme Court, and you are so fired." The name hit the air. Justice. Supreme Court. The whispering from the passengers stopped. A man filming the boarding process on his phone slowly turned his camera towards the podium. Karina Beckett's face went from red to a color of complete, bloodless white. Her eyes widened, and her jaw went slack. She stared at the woman in the navy blue suit, and the full, crushing weight of her mistake landed on her. She wasn't just challenging a passenger. She had just accused a Supreme Court justice and her daughter of being criminals. The title hung in the air. Justice of the United States Supreme Court. For a long moment, the only sound at gate C12 was the hum of the ventilation and the distant rumble of a plane taxiing. Karina Beckett looked as though she had been struck by lightning. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Her carefully constructed world of petty tyranny had just been annihilated by a single, undeniable fact. Justice Aris Thorne didn't gloat. She didn't raise her voice. She simply pressed her advantage with the cold, logical precision of a legal argument. "Ms. Beckett," she said, her voice calm and clear, "you have used your authority as an agent of Global Crest Air to detain my daughter. You have publicly accused her of fraud. You have done so based on what you termed suspicious booking, despite being presented with a valid ticket and a matching, government-issued identification. And you have admitted, in front of witnesses, that you are doing so because, in your words, she doesn't belong." Justice Thorne took a small, deliberate step closer to the podium. Karina instinctively recoiled. "Your actions are not a security measure. They are a textbook case of racial profiling. You have violated your company's own carriage contract, not to mention several federal statutes regarding discrimination in public accommodation." Aris's eyes were like chips of ice. "So we are past the point of you verifying anything. You will now do 3 things. First, you will scan my daughter's boarding pass and allow her onto this aircraft. Second, you will scan my boarding pass. Third, you will provide me with your full name, your employee ID number, and the full name of your immediate supervisor here at Dulles." Karina was trembling, her earlier bravado completely shattered. She looked desperately at Mitchell, the other gate agent, as if pleading for help. Mitchell, realizing the situation was now nuclear, was already on his radio, speaking in a low, urgent tone. "Dave, I need you at C12. Immediately. We have a code red. A VIP situation." "I don't need your supervisor," Aris continued. "I am asking you, Ms. Beckett. Your name? Your ID number?" I, Karina stammered. It's Karina Beckett, employee 449 Heart 12. "Thank you, Ms. Beckett." Aris turned to Imani. "Honey, please give Ms. Beckett your phone." Imani, her own shock now replaced with a sense of dizzying vindication, held out her phone. Karina's hand was shaking so badly she could barely take it. She fumbled with the scanner, her movements jerky and uncoordinated. The scanner beeped. "Green. Valid." Karina looked at the screen as if it had betrayed her. "Mine," Aris said, holding out her own phone. Karina scanned it. "Beep. Green. Valid." "Now," Aris said, as a man in a rumpled suit, Dave Hayes, the gate supervisor, came sprinting down the concourse, his radio crackling. "You will apologize to my daughter." This was, for Karina, the final humiliation. All her authority was gone, inverted. She was no longer the queen of the gate. She was a defendant at sentencing. She looked at Imani, her eyes filled with a toxic brew of terror and resentment. I'm sorry," she mumbled, the words sounding like ground glass. "For the misunderstanding." "It was not a misunderstanding," Aris corrected her, her voice sharp. "It was an accusation. Apologize for that." Dave Hayes skidded to a halt, his face pale and sweaty. "Justice Thorne, ma'am, I am so sorry. Dave Hayes, I'm the station manager. What seems to be the—" Aris held up a single, perfectly manicured hand, and Dave Hayes stopped talking mid-sentence. She did not break her stare with Karina. "Ms. Beckett?" Aris prompted. Karina's face crumpled. The last vestiges of her pride dissolved. "I am sorry," she said, her voice cracking. "I am sorry I accused you of fraud." Thank you, Aris said. She then turned her attention to the new arrival. Mr. Hayes, your employee, Ms. Beckett, has just admitted to racially profiling and falsely accusing my daughter, a passenger, of criminal activity. She did this publicly, damaging her reputation and causing extreme emotional distress. She did this while representing your company, Global Crest Air. You may have my daughters and my boarding passes, but I assure you, this matter is not concluded. Dave Hayes looked like he was going to be physically ill. Justice Thorne, Ms. Washington, on behalf of Global Crest, my deepest, most profound apologies. Please board the aircraft. I will handle this. I promise you. I will handle this personally. He turned to Karina, his expression shifting from terror to absolute fury. Karina, give Mitchell the scanner. Go to my office. Do not talk to anyone. Do not touch your phone. Wait for me. You are off this flight. Now. The walk of shame was brutal. Karina Beckett, stripped of her authority, had to unclip her scanner and hand it to Mitchell. She then had to walk, past Imani, past Justice Thorne, and past the dozens of passengers in Group 3 who had watched the entire spectacular self-immolation. She kept her eyes on the floor, her face burning crimson as she disappeared up the jet bridge ramp, not to the plane, but back into the terminal. Ms. Washington, Justice Thorne, Dave said, bowing his head slightly. Please, after you. Aris put a protective arm around Imani's shoulders. Let's go home, baby, she murmured. As they walked down the jet bridge, Imani glanced back. The man who had been filming was still pointing his phone, capturing Dave Hayes apologizing profusely, and the rest of the passengers whispering excitedly. The story was already leaving the gate. The atmosphere inside the first-class cabin of the Global Crest Airbus A321 was hushed and electric. As Imani and Aris Thorne turned left from the jet bridge, the two flight attendants inside the galley, who had clearly been alerted by the commotion, snapped to attention. Their faces were pale, their smiles frozen in a state of professional panic. Welcome aboard, Justice Thorne. Ms. Washington. The lead attendant, a woman named Seraphil, said, her voice an octave higher than usual. I'm Seraphil. I'll be your lead attendant for this flight. Please let me show you to your seats, 1A and 1B. Can I take your coats? Thank you, Seraphil, Oris said, her tone polite but cool. The transition from avenging mother back to calm, professional traveler was immediate. They settled into the large, comfortable pod-like seats at the front of the cabin. Several other first-class passengers who had boarded before them were unsubtly staring. They had all heard the confrontation at the gate, and now the subjects of the drama were sitting amongst them. The whispers started instantly. That's her, the one the attendant yelled at. And that's her mother, a Supreme Court justice, can you believe it? Imani sank into her seat, the adrenaline beginning to fade, leaving behind a shaky, hollow feeling. The public humiliation, the stares, the whispers, it was all washing over her. She turned her face to the window, watching the ground crew load baggage, and fought back the tears that were suddenly, hotly, pressing against her eyelids. It was so unfair. She'd done nothing. She'd just existed. Aris settled into the seat next to her. She reached over and placed her hand on Imani's arm. Are you all right? She asked quietly, her voice soft now, all the steel gone, replaced by simple, maternal concern. Imani nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She took a shuddering breath. I'm just so angry, she whispered. She looked at me like I was dirt, like I couldn't possibly belong there, and everyone just watched. I know, Aris said, her voice tight with a shared pain. I know, baby. You handled yourself with perfect grace. You did everything right. She is the one who is wrong, and she will be held accountable. I promise you that." Seraphil, the flight attendant, approached their seats, practically walking on eggshells. "Justice Thorne, Ms. Washington, can I get you a pre-departure beverage? We have champagne, mimosas, orange juice. Anything you'd like. On the house, of course." "Water for me, please," Aris said. "The same," Imani murmured. "Absolutely," Seraphil said, scurrying away. She returned moments later with 2 crystal glasses of water on a small tray. "Again, we are all just so terribly sorry for what happened back there. That is not what Global Crest Air stands for. It was unacceptable." "Thank you, Seraphil." "That is appreciated," Aris said, accepting the water. Her tone was gracious, making it clear that her anger was not directed at the rest of the crew, but was laser-focused on Karina Beckett and the system that allowed her to act. As the final passengers boarded, the captain himself emerged from the cockpit. He was a tall man with silver hair and a kind face, his gold-striped epaulets gleaming. He walked directly to 1A and 1B. "Justice Thorne, Ms. Washington," he said, leaning down slightly, his voice low and serious. "I'm Captain Miller. I just wanted to come out and personally apologize for the conduct of one of our crew members at the gate. I was monitoring the radio and heard the entire exchange. It was unprofessional, it was discriminatory, and it is not tolerated on my aircraft. I've already filed a formal complaint with operations, and I want to assure you that this will be escalated to the highest levels. This show of support from the pilot, the ultimate authority on the plane, meant something. It helped chip away at the feeling of isolation Imani felt." "Thank you, Captain," Aris replied, shaking his hand. "That means a great deal to us. We appreciate your professionalism." "It's the least I can do. We'll be pushing back in about 5 minutes. I'll do my best to get you to LAX ahead of schedule. Please, if there is anything you need, you just let Seraphil or me know." "We will." "Thank you," Aris said. The captain nodded and returned to the cockpit. The cabin door was sealed with a heavy, final thunk. The safety video began to play. As the plane was pushed back from the gate, Aris Thorne pulled out her laptop. She connected to the in-flight Wi-Fi. Imani watched as her mother began to type. She wasn't typing a complaint, she was drafting a letter. The recipients, Imani could see, included the CEO of Global Crest Air, the General Counsel, and the Secretary of Transportation. Her mother's fingers flew across the keyboard, her face illuminated by the glow of the screen. She was no longer just Mom. She was Justice Thorne, and she was, Imani knew, composing a legal document that would land on the airline's executive desk with the force of a bomb. The plane taxied, turned onto the runway, and roared into the darkening Virginia sky. Imani watched the lights of DC recede, feeling a sense of grim determination settle over her. The ordeal was over. But the battle had just begun. For 5 hours, the flight was a cocoon of artificial calm. Seraphil and the other first-class attendant provided impeccable, almost reverent service. They refilled Imani's water before she even thought to ask. They offered her snacks, blankets, and noise-cancelling headphones with hushed, apologetic deference. The other passengers kept their distance, stealing occasional, nervous glances. Imani tried to sleep, but her mind was racing. She replayed the confrontation over and over, Karina's snare, the sound of her voice saying, "Where did you get the money?" The faces in the crowd, Aris, for her part, worked. She typed on her laptop for 2 solid hours. She made 2 calls over the in-flight Wi-Fi, her voice a low, steady murmur. She was a picture of controlled, focused fury. When she finally closed her laptop, she turned to Imani. "The CEO has already been notified," she said quietly. His chief of staff has been trying to call me. I'm letting them sweat. When we land, there will be people waiting for us. I want you to let me do the talking, at first. But Imani, she met her daughter's eyes, this is your story, your experience. If you want to speak, you speak. Do you understand? I understand, Imani said, a new strength hardening her voice. I have a lot to say. Good, Aris smiled, a small, proud expression. That's my girl. As the plane began its final descent over the sprawling, glittering grid of Los Angeles, the captain's voice came over the PA. Flight attendants, prepare for arrival. Imani's stomach fluttered. This was it. The plane touched down at LAX with barely a bump. As they taxied to the gate, Seraphil, the flight attendant, came by one last time. Justice Thorne, Ms. Washington, will be at gate 52A. We are asking that you remain in your seats until all other passengers have deplaned. A representative from our corporate office is waiting to escort you. Thank you, Seraphil, Aris nodded. They sat as the cabin emptied. The economy passengers streamed past, many of them looking at the two women in 1A and 1B, their curiosity piqued by the special treatment. Finally, the cabin was empty. Seraphil nodded towards the door. They're ready for you. Imani and Aris gathered their carry-on bags. As they stepped out of the aircraft and onto the jet bridge, they were met not by one, but by three people in dark suits. The man in the lead was older, with a harried expression. Justice Thorne, Ms. Washington, he said, stepping forward, his hand outstretched. My name is Robert Harrison. I'm the Vice President of West Coast Operations for Global Crest Air. Please accept my most sincere, humble apologies on behalf of our entire company. Aris Thorne did not take his hand. Mr. Harrison, she said, her voice echoing slightly in the enclosed bridge, your apologies are noted, but they are insufficient. Mr. Harrison's hand dropped. He was clearly flustered. Yes, of course. We completely understand. The actions of that employee were horrifying. A gross violation of everything we stand for. Please let us escort you to your car. We have a private vehicle waiting for you on the tarmac, so you can bypass the main terminal. That won't be necessary, Mr. Harrison, Aris said. We will walk through the terminal like every other passenger. But first, you will tell me, right here, what actions you have taken since the incident. Harrison swallowed. They were standing in the middle of the jet bridge, a small, captive audience of airline executives, and a single, silent security guard. Well, of course, he stammered. Ms. Beckett has, naturally, been suspended indefinitely, pending a full investigation. An investigation, Aris repeated. What is there to investigate? Your station manager, Mr. Hayes, witnessed the resolution. Your pilot, Captain Miller, filed a formal complaint, and I would wager that by now you have seen the video. Harrison's face went pale. The video? The video, Imani spoke up, her voice sharp and clear. The one the man in line behind me was filming. The one where Miss Beckett asks me where I got the money for my ticket. The one where she calls me a security risk. Have you seen it? Harrison looked at his feet. Yes, Ms. Washington. It was posted to social media before your flight was even halfway here. It has several million views. So you're not investigating, Imani pressed, stepping forward. You're doing damage control. You're not sorry it happened. You're sorry you got caught. Ms. Washington, I assure you, Harrison began, but Aris cut him off. Mr. Harrison, your company employs individuals who are comfortable using their authority to harass and humiliate black passengers. Ms. Beckett was not new. She was not nervous. She was comfortable. That comfort is a product of her environment, your corporate environment. An investigation and a suspension are what you do to manage your stock price. What I want to know is what you are going to do to ensure that the next young black woman who flies Global Crest Air is not subjected to the same treatment. Harrison was speechless. He was a logistics man, used to dealing with baggage systems and fuel costs, not this. He was completely out of his depth. We will be reviewing our training protocols, he offered weakly. You will do more than that, Aris said. You will be hearing from my office. Not my office at the court, but from my personal legal counsel. And I suspect you will be hearing from my daughter. Aris looked at Imani. This was her moment. Imani looked Robert Harrison directly in the eye. I'm a third-year law student at Georgetown, Mr. Harrison. I'm currently specializing in constitutional law and civil rights litigation. I've decided I'll be handling my own case. Consider this your official notice. I'll be filing a lawsuit against Global Crest Air and Karina Beckett personally for racial discrimination, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. My mother's counsel will be CC'd. We'll see you in court. The color drained from Harrison's face. This wasn't just a complaint from a justice. This was a lawsuit from her daughter, a brilliant, motivated, and extremely credible law student who had just been handed the case of a lifetime. Aris Thorne allowed herself a small, thin smile. She put her hand on Imani's back. Let's go, Imani. They brushed past the dumbfounded executives and walked into the terminal, leaving Robert Harrison and his team standing in the jet bridge, the sound of their PR nightmare exploding around them. The story detonated online. The video, filmed by a law blogger named Adam Smith, who had been standing in Group 2, was devastating. It was 45 seconds long. It started just as Karina was challenging Imani. Karina, video? Highly unusual. These kinds of tickets are often flagged. Where did you get this ticket? Imani, video. My mother bought it. Karina, video. Scoffing. Right, your mother. Please step aside. You'll need to wait. The audio was crystal clear. The blogger had then added text over the video. This flight attendant at Global Crest, Dulles, just accused this young black woman of fraud for having a first-class ticket. She's been pulled out of line and is being humiliated in front of everyone. This is profiling, plain and simple. By the time Imani and Aris landed at LAX, the video had 3 million views on X, formerly Twitter, and 5 million on TikTok. Global Crest and Karina Beckett were the #1 and #2 trending topics in the United States. The next morning, the blogger posted an update. Update: you will not believe who the young woman's mother was. She showed up. It was Supreme Court Justice Aris Thorne. I watched her verbally dismantle that flight attendant and have her removed. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Now the story was on every major news network. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. They all led with it. Flight attendant profiles, Supreme Court Justice's daughter. Global Crest Air's stock, which had been trading at $45 a share, dropped 12% in pre-market trading. The company had lost over $500 million in market cap overnight. For Karina Beckett, the world had ended. She was at her home, a small townhouse in suburban Virginia. She had been in Dave Hayes' office until 10 p.m., giving her statement. She had tried to justify it. I was following protocol, she insisted. The last-minute booking was a security flag. Dave Hayes had just stared at her. Karina, you asked her where she got the money. You told her she didn't belong. What protocol is that? You didn't even scan the pass. It was valid. You profiled her, and you profiled the daughter of a Supreme Court justice. What were you thinking? Now, her phone was vibrating off the hook. Her union representative, John Sweeney, was on the line. "Karina, you need to listen to me," John said, his voice grim. "This is beyond bad. This is career-ending." "They can't fire me," Karina shrieked, panic rising in her throat. "I have 20 years. I was following my training. That girl was suspicious. The sweatshirt, the attitude." "Karina, shut up," John snapped. "Just stop talking. The airline is in full panic. They're reviewing your entire file, and it's not good." "What's not good? I'm a good employee." "Are you?" John shot back. "They're pulling your complaint history, Karina. You have 12 formal passenger complaints in the last 5 years. 8 of those complaints involve enhanced scrutiny of minority passengers. 3 of them use the specific word profiling. You've been sent to sensitivity retraining twice." Twice. Karina was silent. She remembered those incidents. The man in the dashiki she'd randomly selected for a bag search. The Latino family she'd questioned about their passports on a domestic flight. She'd always been cleared. A slap on the wrist. A boring online seminar. "This is different, Karina," John continued. "The airline is going to cut you loose. They're going to make an example of you to save their stock price. The video is too damning. The victim is too high profile. You have no defense." "So what do I do?" she cried. "Nothing. You stay inside. You don't talk to the media. You don't post on social media. Global Crest is convening an emergency disciplinary hearing for this afternoon. They've already informed me of their intent to terminate for cause." "For cause?" "They can't. Gross misconduct, violation of company policy, willful discrimination, endangering the company's brand and financial standing. They can and they will. They're going to fire you, Karina, and they're going to try and strip you of your pension and flight benefits." The words hit her. No pension, no benefits. 20 years of her life, gone. Because of one girl. The doorbell rang. She crept to the window. A news van from a local affiliate was parked on her street. A reporter was walking up her front path. She stumbled back from the window, her heart pounding. The doorbell rang again and again. "They're here," she whispered into the phone. "The news is at my house." "Don't answer it, Karina. Don't say anything," John ordered. But Karina wasn't listening. A deep, burning rage was replacing her panic. This wasn't her fault. It was their fault. It was that girl's fault for her attitude. It was that mother's fault for using her power, for being who she was. She, Karina Beckett, was the victim. The official email from Global Crest Air arrived an hour later. "Dear Ms. Beckett, this letter is to inform you that your employment with Global Crest Air is terminated, effective immediately." She read the words, and something inside her snapped. She wasn't going to hide. She was going to fight. She was going to tell her side of the story. She was going to tell the world how she was the one who was being victimized. She picked up her phone and called the number on the reporter's card, which she had slipped through her mail slot. "This is Karina Beckett," she said, her voice shaking with fury. "I'm ready to talk." Karina Beckett's decision to fight back was perhaps her most catastrophic mistake of all. She sat down in her living room for an exclusive, on-camera interview with a national news anchor known for his confrontational style. She saw it as her chance for vindication. The world saw it as a dumpster fire. "I am not a racist," Karina insisted, her eyes wide and pleading. "I was trained to spot irregularities. That ticket was an irregularity. I was protecting my passengers. I was doing my job." The anchor, Tom Holloway, leaned in. "But did your job, Ms. Beckett, require you to ask Ms. Washington, a 24-year-old law student, Where did you get the money for this ticket? Karina flushed. I was trying to ascertain the situation. She was being defensive. Her body language was closed off. She was wearing a hooded sweatshirt. We are trained to look for those behavioral flags. A hooded sweatshirt, Tom repeated, his eyebrow raised. So, her clothing and defensive body language, after you'd already treated her with suspicion, was your justification for accusing her of fraud. This has been blown all out of proportion, Karina said, her voice rising. This is a vendetta. Her mother, Justice Thorne, she used her power to destroy me. This is an abuse of power. A Supreme Court justice got a flight attendant fired. Is that justice? This, she thought, was her trump card. The Dave versus Goliath angle. It backfired. Immediately, the public's response was not sympathy for Karina. It was a collective digital eye roll. The online comments were brutal. Abuse of power is a flight attendant stopping a paying customer from boarding a plane. She's not mad she did it. She's mad she did it to the wrong person. She's right. It is an abuse of power. Karina's abuse of power. Her file shows 12 complaints for profiling. She wasn't doing her job. She was practicing her hobby. Global Crest Air, seeing the interview, moved to distance itself even further. They released a statement that not only confirmed her termination, but also released a summary of her history of passenger service failures. They publicly stated she had violated explicit company anti-discrimination policies. Karina was radioactive. She attempted to sue Global Crest for wrongful termination. She claimed she was a scapegoat, thrown to the wolves to appease a powerful public figure. She needed a lawyer. The first lawyer she called, a prominent employment attorney, laughed. Ms. Beckett, you don't have a case. You have a 45-second video of you violating the Civil Rights Act. You have a documented history of similar behavior. And you have an interview of you confessing that you judged a passenger by her sweatshirt. No, I will not be representing you. The second, third, and fourth lawyers all said the same thing. No one would touch her case. She was toxic. The airline, as her union rep predicted, moved to strip her pension and benefits, citing gross misconduct and actions that caused catastrophic financial and reputational harm to the company. Her union, seeing the overwhelming evidence and the legal impossibility of winning, quietly settled with the airline. Karina would get a tiny fraction of her pension. Her travel benefits were gone forever. Her life unraveled. She was the airplane Karina of the news cycle. She couldn't leave her house without someone recognizing her, filming her with their phone, or muttering racist under their breath. Her friends, many of whom also worked for the airline, ghosted her. Within 6 months, she had to sell her townhouse to pay her legal bills. She was unemployable. No other airline would hire her. No customer-facing job was possible. The hard, swift karma had hit. She eventually found a job at a regional call center, working the night shift, handling shipping manifests for a logistics company. She had gone from wielding authority over thousands of passengers a day, soaring at 35,000 feet, to a fabric cubicle in a windowless room, her name and face a permanent meme for prejudice. She had lost her career, her reputation, and her future, all because she couldn't imagine a world where a young black woman belonged in seat 1B. While Karina Beckett's life was imploding, Imani Washington's was just beginning. She had, as promised, filed her lawsuit. The legal team at Global Crest Air, facing a discovery process that would be personally overseen by a team of lawyers reporting to Justice Thorne, and a plaintiff who was every bit as brilliant as her mother, knew they had no chance. The case would be a public relations bloodbath. They waved the white flag immediately. "We are not interested in a trial, Ms. Washington," the airline's general counsel, Eliza Vance, said on a video call. "The company is prepared to offer a substantial financial settlement. We want to make this right." Imani sat at her desk in her Georgetown apartment, Aris sitting quietly beside her, offering silent support. "Ms. Vance," Imani said, her voice firm, "I appreciate the offer, but this was never about the money." Eliza Vance paused. I see. Then, what is it about?" "It's about the next time," Imani said. "It's about the black woman, or the Latino man, or the Muslim family that steps up to a gate and doesn't have a Supreme Court justice for a mother. Your company's sensitivity training is a joke. Your employee, Ms. Beckett, was retrained twice and was still on your front line. A settlement, to me, is just hush money. I'm not interested in being quiet. I'm interested in change." For the next 2 months, Imani, while simultaneously studying for the bar exam, led a brutal, exacting negotiation. She wasn't just a plaintiff, she was a reformer. The result was not a simple settlement. It was a binding, court-ordered consent decree that would be known internally at Global Crest Air as the Washington Accord. The terms were sweeping. 1. A multi-million-dollar fund. Global Crest would establish a $10 million endowed fund, managed by the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, to provide scholarships for minority students in aviation, business, and law. 2. Systemic training overhaul. The airline's entire employee training module on bias and passenger interaction was to be scrapped. A new curriculum would be designed from the ground up, not by corporate HR, but by a board of civil rights experts and sociologists, approved by Imani and her counsel. 3. The 3 strikes policy. A new, transparent system for tracking and acting on passenger complaints of discrimination was to be implemented. Any employee who received 3 substantiated complaints would be automatically terminated. No exceptions. No retraining. 4. A public apology. The CIO of Global Crest Air would issue a formal public apology, not just to Imani and Justice Thorne, but to all its minority passengers, admitting to systemic failures. 5. Personal compensation. Only after all other terms were met did Imani accept a personal, private settlement for damages. She promptly used a significant portion of it to endow a new civil rights clinic at Georgetown Law. The story ended a year later. Imani, having graduated with honors and passed the bar, was the keynote speaker at a national civil rights conference. She stood at a podium, poised and powerful, in a suit that was, ironically, the same sharp navy blue her mother had worn. "There is a difference between justice and karma," she said to the packed ballroom. "Karma is what happens to you. Justice is what you make happen. The flight attendant who profiled me faced her karma. She lost her job, her reputation. But that wasn't justice. That was just a consequence. Justice," Imani continued, "was the accord. Justice is the new training module that teaches employees what bias actually looks like. Justice is the scholarship fund that will put more people who look like me in positions of power, in the cockpit, in the boardroom, and at the gate. The flight attendant looked at me and decided I didn't belong. We are here today to redefine who belongs. The answer is everyone. Thank you." The room erupted in a standing ovation. In the front row, Aris Thorne, a mother first and a justice second, wiped a single, proud tear from her eye. The humiliation at Gate C-12 was no longer just a painful memory. It was the foundation of a legacy. That is the incredible story of how one woman's prejudice became her downfall, and how another woman's humiliation became her power. Karina Beckett learned the hard way that the person you look down on might just be standing on a mountain you can't see, and Imani Washington with the guidance of her Supreme Court mother, Aris Thorne, didn't just win a fight. She changed the entire system. She turned a moment of targeted hate into a nationwide victory for civil rights. What do you think of this story? Do you believe the airline did enough? Have you ever witnessed something like this while traveling? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you were moved by this story of justice and hard karma, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and most importantly, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell for more true life stories where karma delivers the final verdict. Thanks for listening.